I think they'll go all the way to the final, to be honest. Yeah. I believe in my county, and I suppose they're good at football. They just have to believe in themselves.
I love playing 12, I love playing 10. I love being on the pitch, to be honest. Are you confident?
Absolutely not.
No!
Thank you for all the supporters. Thank you for the team. Thank you, France. Merci la France. Merci les baguettes. Merci les croissants. Je vous aime. I love you.
Hello and welcome to Word on the Street, where every week we take a different sporting topic, something that's been dominating the headlines, and we take it to the public to see what they think. Now, we have a very special episode for you this week with some behind-the-scenes content from the Irish Tennis Open, all about the science of racket stringing. It's a pretty niche, but it's one of the most fascinating pieces of interviewing that I've ever done. So here is episode 16, Meet the Stringers. What's it like having an Open in Ireland and this kind of tournament for the players, and how do you get involved in doing this? Or do you work here full time?
So it's great to have international events in Ireland. So we have a lot of junior international events, but this is the main senior event of the year. So my background, I've been stringing for about 23 years. Sort of under my CV would be I've done 10 Wimbledons. Been Davis Cup stringer as well, done about 15 Davis Cup ties. Some Queen's Club events in London as well, pre-Wimbledon. So that's, and I would string here at the Irish Open. I do a lot of the junior tournaments now. I don't travel as much, but I do a lot of junior tournaments here as well, as does Michael. So we're both part of the Global Racket Stringers Association. So the GRSA team are well supported here this week. We're both qualified under GRSA as well. So yeah. Perfect.
And what's it like stringing at Wimbledon? Do you have is it more tension because you're doing it for like the world number one, or what is it?
Yeah, tournament stringing brings its own pressures because you have players wanting rackets done fairly quickly. You have players maybe sending rackets off court, so that'll be maybe a slightly more of a rush, bit of adrenaline. What being part of the Wimbledon team for 10 years was superb. There's about 17, when I was there were 17 stringers there in the stringing room. We had running staff that ran rackets to the players on court as well. So yeah, it was a great event to be involved in. And you met with colleagues from around the world as well. At that time I was the only stringer from Ireland actually on the team, so yeah. But it was great.
Can you explain what this contraption is and what it does?
It's a racket stringing machine for the players. So when the players want their racket strung, they bring it to us with their specifications of what they want it strung with, their string, what string they use, their tensions that they use as well. We'll pop them on the machine and string them for their next matches.
How much can they differ from player to player, the preferences?
So different players will play with different rackets, they'll play with different strings, so they'll because they're playing on the tour week in, week out, they'll have their specifications. This week maybe in Ireland, when the weather conditions are a little bit maybe cooler, the courts are maybe a little bit faster, they might vary their tensions depending on that. Also depending on their opponent, who they're playing as well, they might do that. So yeah, player to player will differ, but they'll have their own specs that they give us, and we string to their requirements.
And how many rackets do you tend to string in any kind of given day?
Oh, it's gonna depend on the tournament, but I'd say our busiest day we're maybe doing about 25 each. We're here till 10 p.m. On Monday, yes. And then yesterday there was high demand as well, so we'd be maybe expecting more to come in after the singles matches today. Especially with the rain, they may be breaking a few more strings now that the balls are heavier, or with the colder conditions, they may want to drop tension a little bit.
like a full-time job, or do you have like a tennis shop as well, or like how do you practice stringing? It seems bizarre, but like I've never heard of it before. Well, obviously I've heard of it, but I didn't know it was a full-time thing.
I don't work full time at stringing. It's still a business that developed. I also work with some of the brands, some of the tennis brands as well. So I work in a lot of capacity within the tennis industry. So whether it's stringing, whether it's working with the brands, promoting the brands as well. So you've Babolat, would be the main brands. Wilson would be one of the main brands as well. So yeah, so I do that. Yeah. So and I work a lot with the junior players who play on tour all the time, and I have a couple of clubs that I have a stringing base in, both in the north and in the south as well. So
Have you done any Grand Slams, or what kind of tournaments have you done?
Unfortunately not. Hopefully I'll get there someday. But I've been mainly doing the tournaments around Ireland. So Tennis Ireland has a lot more international junior events being ran these days. And some of them, some of them do require a stringer to be on site at the tournament. That's a bit more manageable than say here at the senior event. It would just be one of us there. But yeah, I mean, there would be, I would say, 12, maybe 14, junior international events in Ireland these days, and we'd be present stringing at almost all of them, and we always get great feedback from the players, and we're just very happy to provide that service for them.
How many rackets would players at this level have, and how many times do they need to get them strung over the tournament?
Yeah, well, I mean, they would be traveling with, anywhere from maybe 3 at a minimum rackets, but more likely 5, 6 ish or so. They'd be traveling around with that amount of rackets. Generally, they would leave in probably 2, just they would have 2 the same, for their next match, and. A lot of them at this stage would be getting the racket strung every match. They wouldn't necessarily be breaking the strings, but they can feel them just, the tension just start to slip a little bit, and they're just looking for, they're looking to optimize their rackets as best as possible for these matches. They're looking to close up any kind of variable, and that's our job as stringers to make sure that that this is ran very smoothly for them.
And I suppose for players at this level where the money isn't huge and they're trying to support themselves, does this cost money, this thing, to getting the racket restrung?
Yes, so we would be paid per racket. We would just have a rate per racket, and then these players, they know exactly what they want, so that they will be traveling with their own strings that they may be getting from brand deals, sports shops, or other stringers. They may be getting them as part of their endorsement, and then they would they would give the string to us. We would just charge a rate for it.
So I remember in Wimbledon there was a German lady, I can't remember her name, but she would bring 2 rackets to the back of the court, and she would use one for serving and then one when she was defending the other person's serve. What is it that they're doing? What's the difference? Because I think to a spectator you're like, oh, bizarre, but she obviously has a very specific.
Yeah. So you'll have so a lot of players will have so there's different string setups for different things. So if players want maybe more power or more control, so the science behind it, just to keep it very simple. So if you want more power in your racket, you will string it looser, so the tension will be lower. Whereas if you want more more control, you'll have it strung tighter, and it's the trampoline effect. So if you can imagine you on a trampoline and the ball on the racket, so the racket's the trampoline and you're the ball. So if you go down onto the trampoline and you go right down into the trampoline, then it catapults you out at a faster rate. So the lower you go on a trampoline, it'll just fire you out. So it's the same with the string bed of a racket. So if you look at a slow motion on a racket, at a ball on a racket, you'll see it hitting the racket, and then it comes back into the string bed, and then the string bed catapults it. So obviously the looser that is, the more power it generates. So yeah.
And for a device like the ones that you have here, are these sort of industry standard now, or how have they developed, I guess, over the years?
All the brands, I mean, most of the major brands, so you have Babolat, so Michael has a Babolat machine, and then this is a Wilson machine. You've got the head machines as well, so they're all pretty much, I mean, both machines here are continuous pull machines. They're electronic machines, so they're the up-to-date technology. here. So yeah, so we try to have these. These would be the machines that would be used at major tournaments throughout the world as well. So yeah, and the players are getting that consistency from the machine.
And could you string a Wilson racket on your one over there?
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's you know, I mean, there'll be a lot of different brands making these stringing machines. Babolat, Wilson, Head, all sorts, and yes, there would be an industry standard with these machines. It is, these are very, they're very much tour machines. They're good for traveling. They're very, they're very robust, very reliable, and they're built on a very strong chassis. And then, while they are electronic, the electronic, tension puller, is great for accuracy and consistency. But stringing is still very much a hand-done skill. Like the person stringing the racket will make a huge difference on the racket. But absolutely, everyone will be using electronic machines at these tournaments just for that extra consistency.
We basically mount the racket on the machine. These are easy because they just guide the mounts on there. So basically, this would be a key sort of area. So once it's mounted, we don't mount them on too tight, because as we tension the rackets at certain levels, it'll tighten up, and if these are too tight, it puts stress onto the frame as well. So we'll set them on here. We'll pick a string, so I'll get some string.
Yeah, there's a half set.
We'll use that. Yeah, we'll just use the half set here. So of this. So basically, one racket. So one set of string to do one racket is. I'll give you guys. I'll ask you guys the question as well. So how much string in meters? How many meters do you think it takes to string one racket?
Well, I'm probably going to be I'm going to say 2, and I'm going to be really wrong.
Okay, so it's 12 meters.
Wow.
So 12 meters in a racket, so 12 meters in a set. So I'm just going to, we would use as stringers, we would sort of have what we'd use our wingspans.
There's one of those things that comes from experience. When I first started, I was using a fixed measurement, metering out meter by meter, trying to get it right. But then after for me anyway, I think I'm on my 11th year of stringing. I just tend to eyeball it, and I'm usually right. You can have a meter rule up on a wall and just go 6 meters for crosses. So this is the key thing to start. I just want to make sure that the strings are into the grommets. Okay, so just down here we would set the tension. So if a player comes in and asks for a particular tension, so the machine can deal with pounds or it can deal with kilograms. It doesn't matter which. So in this case it's in pounds. So we're going to string this racket up at actually 48 pounds. With this, we're going to be using one set of strings. So this is a soft polyester string in the mains. So it gives you a bit of durability on the string, but it also gives you a little bit of power as well. Okay, and we're not stringing it too tight for this particular player. So okay, so we're going to use what we call a starter block here, just to protect the string, and this is called a starting clamp. So we just place that up, and then we will bring this onto here, so we'll tighten this one up. Okay, and this will hold the tension when I release the tension head. Okay. So we start with the vertical strings. These are called the mains. So this is the mains. So you've got the mains there, and then when we finish the mains, then we'll start the crosses.
as Michael said before, it's still quite a very labour-intensive manual process. Although you mount it on the machine and you can set the tension head, you still have to manually do a racket, and each racket takes anything, depending on the string you're using, it can take sort of 20-25 minutes per racket. From start to finish.
Occasionally we would get the odd emergency one where someone is on court and they're down to their last racket, they want one done, in which case I could maybe get it done in about 15 minutes, but Roger here would be closer to 10 minutes if he really needed to get it done. Yeah.
And so do you guys just hate when players smash their rackets in anger on the court? Is that something?
Well, it's more of a hindrance to the player, because once they smash a racket on court, they don't have another racket, so we can't string it. So when they smash a racket, it's no use to them and it's no use to us. We can't do anything to help them. So
all the beautiful handiwork destroyed in.
Yeah, and it's expensive for the player as well. Yeah.
You were saying at Wimbledon, the players have like stringers who are almost like a part of their team, is it?
Yeah, so all the stringing team at Wimbledon, there's about 6,000 to 7,000 contracted staff at Wimbledon. We would be obviously part of that, but players would see us as an integral part of their team. They would have their coaches, their physical trainers, their nutritionists travel with them. But they would see us and they would treat us as a part of their team. So they would come in and they would ask for some advice. They would chat to us as well. So which is great. So we'd be well looked after there on the team. So yeah, it's great. We're coming to a crucial part here. We're coming to the end main string. So what we're going to do is we're going to clamp this off and then we're going to tie off as well. So we tie off the mains part here. So we have a feature on the machine here. It's called so we have, you see the knot there. So what we would do, we would add about, in this case, we're going to add 15% to this. So when I press this here, it takes it up to 55.2. So this here is tighter than these other ones, but because when we tie the knot, there's going to be a certain amount of knot slippage, so that's to compensate now, so the whole racket doesn't lose its tension. So we clamp that off, and then we'll do the same on the other side, and we only do this in the outer strings that we use to tie off. Okay, so this knot that we use. There's two sort of standard knots on the professional tour. It would be called the pro knot, or this is called the Parnell knot. Okay, so I'll let you see it actually in slow motion here. So I just over, and then I lip through, and then I come back out over again, and then lip up in through. So this is getting us a double knot, so that the knot will not slip.
I feel like I'm back in my sailing days.
Absolutely, you're half hitches.
And is that a pro or a Parnell knot you're doing right now?
This is a Parnell knot, yeah.
Why is it called a Parnell knot?
It's because a guy called Richard Parnell, basically who founded the GRSA. He's a mentor of mine. He's been a mentor of mine for many years. When I entered the stringing room at Wimbledon, he was the guy that took me under his wing. So I've worked with Richard for a long time, and he actually has his own set of tools that he's marketed as well.
These knots are developed, such that they, they're very secure. They won't slip back through the grommet. So they are just like that little bit big enough, but at the same time not too bulky that prevents you from stringing the racket correctly. And the advantage of something like a Parnell knot, a pro knot, is it also doesn't put too much pressure on the existing string that you're actually tying it to. There would be different standards between different stringing teams, but for the most part, everyone will be using a Parnell knot or a pro knot. Roger, I've got another half set here.
Yeah, I've got. I'm going to put some synthetic gut then.
Yeah.
Is that synthetic gut?
Synthetic.
Perfect.
So I would have bought my first stringing machine when I was about 14. I was, an avid tennis player, and my whole family played tennis, and we lived outside the city, so you were looking at like a 2-hour round trip to go drop a racket off. So I ended up buying a stringing machine myself and sort of learning how to do it. Certainly when it comes to my tennis ability, I quickly identified I did not have the skills to make it make a living playing tennis. So I've gone into stringing instead. I'm a big fan of the technical side of tennis and racket technology, string technology. So over the years I would have done a few different stringing courses. Got to learn under some of the best in the UK and such, and then eventually sort of working my way into tournaments, by showing a good standard of stringing and by really helping players along with getting their rackets set up with different strings, different weights, different types of rackets.
And what's the dream?
Sorry?
What's the dream, dream height of a stringer's career?
I'd say, for me, I would say getting to string on the professional tour, on the ATP or WTA tour at somewhere like Wimbledon or Queen's Club in London would be a fantastic experience to get. And of course, and the other thing as well would be to sort of get a bit more involved with the higher end players, setting up their rackets and really getting dialed in to try and again optimize their games.
May I ask, if it's not too personal, can you make a good living at a stringing if you're at that top level, or even at the not top level?
There's sort of two pathways as I would see it from the experience I've had. There's in Ireland there's probably, unless you have a shop, unless you have a shop obviously that has a stringing service and you're selling stuff, you would make a decent living out of it there. To make a decent living out of it from a full-time perspective, you would need to travel a lot and do a lot of tournaments. So that's why sort of I would supplement income with other projects within the tennis industry as well. So yeah, so it's an interesting. As far as the dreams were concerned, when I set a goal out very quickly. I sort of learned. So how I learned how to string was I actually emailed the guy that was the head stringer at Wimbledon for 15 years at that stage. I emailed him and said, "Look, would you teach me how to string?" And thankfully he said yes.
What was his name?
A guy called Ray Gooden. And Ray still, he's a great, like Michael, he's very technical. He actually sets up stringing machines and he services machines as well.
Ray is still very active in the stringing community. I was in communication with him, I'd say, a few months ago, just because he's one of the few people around who would still be, who would still have parts and know how to fix some of these machines here. So he's still very active, and in repairing the machines, and keeping the whole stringing industry moving along. Yeah,
because it's a very exact science.
It is. It's pretty. You've got to be. I mean, though it's quite. It looks quite complicated, quite technical. It's quite simple when you get to learn how to do it, and most rackets are pretty standard. Although you would have different stringing patterns, so you would have different amounts of strings in the mains and the crosses. You would have certain rackets would you have to start at certain points as well. But yes, just going back onto the sort of the dream. Whenever I started to learn how to string, I set a goal of 5 years to string at a major tournament, and achieved Wimbledon 2.5 from when I started to string. So, wow. So it was but you obviously have to have a passion for it as well. Yeah.
Who was your kind of favourite players you've strung a racket for at Wimbledon? Or least favourite?
Early.
Going to start name dropping now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to string for the likes of Nadal, Federer, Murray. Yeah. Well, actually, Roger would have his own. So a lot of those top players would have another company that they would have follow them around the tour. So the likes of those guys would have. But Wimbledon, a lot of the players will use actually the on-site service at the championships as well. But I mean, Rafa in particular would have been a guy that would have come in himself, and he was a great guy. He would have come in and he would have gone around basically everybody in the stringing room and sort of said hi to them and spent time with them as well. So, but I mean, ultimately as well, I mean, because we've spent so much time in Ireland here, we've got to know a lot of the junior players, and we've watched those junior players progress up into the senior ranks. So, for instance, here this week, I've seen a lot of the guys. I've seen Conor Gannon go from juniors right up to his Davis Cup, and you've worked with those players right up through, and it's nice to see them.
There's definitely relationships that are built then between the tennis players here in Ireland and the stringers.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it is that thing of as the players sort of come in to get their rackets set up. With the likes of Roger, there's definitely a lot of trust put into making sure the racket is absolutely right, and I can see that there's a couple of the Irish players whenever they come along to the tournaments, they're sometimes a bit relieved to see that it's Roger or maybe these days occasionally myself that sort of relieved to see it's one of us handling the tournament. Yes,
it's a familiar face.
Yeah. Someone they know who have done the rackets before, yeah.
And are these two different types of strings now? Because they look a slightly different colour.
Yes. So these are two different types of strings. These days with stringing, you put the strings into two categories. You would have copolyester strings that are very stiff. They've got a very high degree of control. Good, better spin potential. But they can be very underpowered. They can feel a bit like a plank of wood if they're not set up just right. And then the other type of strings we would have multi-filament, synthetic guts, natural guts. They're far more elastic. They're very stretchy. So they would provide good power and feel in the rackets. With the downside obviously being that a very low degree of control just because of how stretchy they are. So for a lot of club players, we would do something like this, which is a hybrid of the two, try and get some overall playability, and then there would be professional players going with a similar setup as well. The likes of Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer, they would have a hybrid setup in their rackets with the natural gut in the main strings and very popular polyester Luxilon Alu Power in the crosses.
So just what Michael's just been describing there, we have a player this week, Oscar Whiteman, who is using the natural gut setup in his mains, and he's using the polyesters in his crosses, similar to what Federer used in his there. So yeah. And
would they send them to you kind of before the tournament, or drop them off?
No, they would come with their reels of string, and in this case a set of natural gut. This is probably the most expensive. This is the natural fibre, natural gut. It's a beautiful feel of it. But interestingly enough, it's just a really nice. But it's expensive.
Natural gut has probably been around the longest in terms of a type of string. 30, 40 years ago it was maybe the only thing that players used. But it's still relevant in tennis today just because there's been no synthetic material that can match its elasticity. There's nothing else quite like it. But yes, very expensive, and it doesn't last too long. It maybe doesn't suit the weather in Ireland too much either. It doesn't like water, so we can't really play in the rain. But yeah, even though there's been a lot of advancements in technology with these stiffer strings, there's still a place for natural gut. It's still very widely used on the professional tour.
So we just get Coco to put her details on the sheet. What her string is, what her racket is. And what tension she would like the racket done at as well. So in this case, she's using Alu Power, Luxilon Alu Power, and she's going with 25 kilos in the mains and 25 kilos in the crosses tension-wise. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and
I'll take that one.
I'll take that. So what we do then, we take the ticket, and then we'll just, to make sure we know whose racket's which, then we just put that onto the, just put it onto the grip.
She's had a couple of rackets strung with us already, so you know, again, like, you know, again, under that sort of, you know, idea of trying to be as consistent as possible. We are, you know, between the two of us, you know, we're sort of splitting the rackets up, but we're trying to stick with the same players we would have started stringing with at the start of the tournament. So I strung a couple of Coco's rackets so far this week, so I'll probably string that one for consistency, and then you know, Roger would have strung, you know, a couple of, say, you know, Conor Gannon's rackets, who's on court now, so he would be sticking with sticking with Conor's rackets. You know, again, like, you know, there wouldn't be a whole lot of difference between the two of us and the two of our machines, because we're using, you know, very similar techniques and, you know, and tour machines. But you know, this is just to you know, close up any variables we can, you know, for that consistency that the players look for.
If I was to hand you two rackets that had been done by yourself and by Roger, would you be able to tell which one was done by each of you?
We probably could tell, just because of maybe how the knots are sort of, you know, cut off a bit. Like, you know, like, you know, mine might be cut, like, you know, a little shorter, a little longer, or something. We could probably tell, but there wouldn't be a big practical difference in the final product in terms of, you know, tension and how well it would be done. You know, occasionally I would see, I would have my regular customers come to me back home, and I can see occasionally, like, you know, oh, Roger did this one, so I know it's been done well. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're trying to, and this is why it's important that stringers are well. You'll know the difference between stringers that have been qualified by through an association, or guys that have taught themselves on YouTube, for instance, right? So my question would be, if you were to go to a dentist or go to a surgeon or go to a doctor, would you trust one that has taught themselves on YouTube? So and we're trying to get consistency, and there's more and more people. I actually teach guys how to string through GRSA courses. So we're trying to get more and more people involved and get them certified, so that because there's more and more tournaments here, we want people then to be able to be of the same standard as we have. So there's consistency right across the board, because players are paying for a service. So you want to pay for a service that's consistent and good as well. So yeah, so we're coming pretty close to the end of the crosses here. So as you can see, the crosses are a little bit more difficult than the mains, because you obviously have to weave through. So every other string, every alternate string, this is okay. So this is the end one here. So you'll see when I come across in here, so the last string that I've put through is under, and this one's over. So basically we're going to go over this time. So each one's done alternatively. So this is the end cross. So again, like the mains, we have to, when we're actually tensioning this off, we have to use the 15% knot added tension. Again, so that we don't lose any tension on the crosses. So again, we're going to add the 15, pull it off, and clamp it off here. And the tie-off points on this racket are actually quite easy, because it tells us. So this is so that there is the tie-off for the mains that we did. And there is the tie-off there for the crosses, so we know that we have to then we're tying off in this particular. And we also have to make sure that, so we make sure that we don't, because if I was to go through that, then there would be a crossover on the string there. So I have to make sure that I go in on top so that it's neatly finished. And again, using the okay, and the last tie off. Again, we add more tension there. Again, we're using the Parnell pad and the starter knot so that we don't damage the frame. That's what this is designed for. And again, it tells us what tie-off hole to use. And the knots, we just make sure that the knots are nice and tight into the frame as well, and they're all going the little tails are going the same direction, and then we just snip them off to the same height as each other, and more importantly that because they're pushed in there, so that players don't catch their fingers and cut themselves on there as well. So, and then the final thing that we do is just make sure that we use a screwdriver with literally it doesn't break the strings here, and it's just to straighten them, make sure they're straight. It's actually a pet hate of mine to see rackets come off a stringing machine and the strings going all over the place.
Technically speaking, whenever you have the crosses sort of coming down with a little bit of curve in them, technically speaking, that is a sign of tension loss. Like you're not getting the full tension pulled by the machine. It wouldn't make a huge amount of difference for a club player, but for the professional player, they would notice. Yeah. So whenever we're stringing, we're lining it up as close as we can get it. But then, and so we only have to make a very small adjustment like this whenever we're finishing off the racket.
I suppose for players, it's just trying to extract every inch of performance that they can get.
Absolutely, yeah. It takes a lot of training to improve on the tennis court, but something like a good racket setup, this can be easily done by a stringer who knows what they're doing.
So just make sure that bring it out, and we just double check it then, just make sure that the strings are pretty straight. Yeah. So who's up now? Who's going to go first?
I think I'd snap a finger off.
So just then, this is a little bit of fun we can have as well at events. So there's quite a bit of wastage on strings. So at certain tournaments, we would actually get some of the kids, some of the local junior tournaments that I actually worked at. We actually gave the kids a lot of just string cuts, and we can actually make tennis rackets from them.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Could you make one for us now?
Yeah, we'll make you one now.
I'm guessing none of these are kind of biodegradable or anything. They're all.
Unfortunately, not. The one. Yeah, I suppose that's the one advantage of natural gut. It is technically biodegradable.
Yeah, natural gut.
Although it isn't vegan. So yeah, but yes, unfortunately, a lot of these strings, they aren't biodegradable. And you do end up with a bit of wastage at the end of the day. There are some strings these days that are made from recycled materials, which is a very exciting new thing. I believe Luxlon has one. Isospeed, an Austrian string brand, has one. Called Isospeed Restring, and they're made from recycled PET, which is plastic bottles. I'm very interested to see where that goes. But for the time being, I would like to think that restringing the tennis racket keeps the tennis racket good, and that you don't really have to replace that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Would you have any electrical tape? Sorry, I'm neglecting. I just need to add the finishing touches here to the rackets.
A perfectionist. So do you need to be a little bit of a perfectionist to work in this job?
It's something that we, when you do your qualification, when you work with GRSA, their industry standards are very high. So that's where we would teach. I mean, that's where we would teach on the courses. Good man, thank you very much. Very much so. So yeah, just attention to detail. I mean, these guys are using it's their tools of their trade.
Attention to detail is a big thing for sure. We would try to put the racket the same way round on the machine every time, like in terms of sort of lengthways, we can flip it one way or the other. Whenever we're doing the machine, we try to have it the same way round on the machine. Even here on the machine, a lot of modern machines would have markings top and bottom, so that you can consistently put your racket into the machine. I don't have that on my machine. Now because it's a little bit older. So, but I have managed to come up with an alternative solution. So, at the top here, we have got a picture of Pete Sampras, one of my favourite players. He dominated in the 1990s. See him, hitting a regular volley, with the ball at the top of the racket. And then at the bottom of the stringing machine, we have Alexander Bublik doing his signature move of hitting the ball with the handle of the racket. And that indicates to me that I want to put the bottom of the racket here whenever I'm stringing, sort of like that.
Obviously, we're here at the Irish Open. It's been a few, the qualifiers are just done. What's the rest of the week going to look like for you?
The rest of the week, well, it should start to get a bit slower for us at the stringing machines because we'll have a few less players around. They're going to head off to their next tournaments or their next training places. For us, we're going to stay by the machines. Make sure that we can handle any players who might have need a racket that needs a quick turnaround if they're on court. Our evenings, I'm sure we'll have a set of rackets ready to, that need strung for the next day. But I'm really hoping to get to see some of the tennis. We've got a great, there's one of the few clubs where we've got a great view of the centre court of the main matches, and I'm definitely hoping to see a bit of Michael Agwee play later. We're getting to see some of Conor Gannon play now. These are some of our top Irish players. I'm excited to see them do well at least at this tournament.
Thank you very much.
Just on the last point, we have a player here this week who has a very famous brother that plays top 10 in the world. So Stefanos Tsitsipas's brother, Pavlos, and these are Pavlos's rackets that we've looked after him all week with. So.
And is he using the black gut? Is that what it's called?
He's using the same. He's using the Pure Aero Babolat Pure Aero rackets, and he's using the RPM Blast Babolat RPM Blast string.
These for us?
These are for you guys, yeah. Just as a little token.
Thank you very much.
There you are. There you are. Your very own ten. Wait.
I was really hoping we'd get two. Wow. Thank you both so much. This has been really interesting because it's there's so much of tennis that I don't think you see behind the scenes when you just watch on the TV or you just watch out there. So yeah, thank you very much.
No problem at all. Brilliant. Thank you very much.